I will call the meeting of the Ways and Means Committee back to order. We are on House File 11. Representative Moeller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll just note, again, for the record, that the website still indicates that we weren't coming back again till 12:30. So I think this is really confusing for the public with the break and the timing and everything. That said, I do have a comment about the bill. I know there was some suggestion that this is bad for small business, and I did note in the committee packet that Main Street Alliance, and meaning the bill is bad, meaning the original paid family medical leave bill. And I did see that the Main Street Alliance really supports paid family medical leave. They oppose this bill and describe how it is good for small businesses. And I just wanted to offer an example. A former colleague of ours, Representative Jamie Becker-Finn, owns a coffee shop, and she did the calculator and said with the paid family medical leave law, it would only be about $20 a month for her business to be able to offer paid family medical leave. And she said that without having that, she just can't compete and purchase these products on the market. So she's again reminding us that this is good for small businesses. The original bill is good for small businesses, and that we should be rejecting the notion that it's not. And so I'm going to be voting no on the bill today. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Moeller. Representative Cagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, this is probably more of a comment, but one of the trends I'm really worried about here is this crony capitalism, where corporations, get favor privilege. And so I really wanted just to bring the public's attention to the letters in our packets. The letters in support, Minnesota Business Partnership, 9 different Chamber of Commerce's, 2 different banks, the banking industry, 2 different banking industry letters, Federal Federation of Businesses in Retail Minnesota, and the the packet that are in favor of it, AARP, Children's Defense Fund, the nurses, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, Isaiah, and AFL-CIO. So I am actually really happy to that we're offering this paid family leave program to Minnesota. Not too long ago, I was in that position, and I was privileged enough to be able to have that time and bond with my baby, and then even bring her here. And so that's super important. And we don't want to take that away from mothers or any family members. And so I just really think that when we're looking at who is supporting this and who is not, businesses are clearly supporting this delay, and the workers and people are clearly not. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on what we heard in the first segment of this hearing, I was wondering if we could bring Evan Rowe back up to, so I could ask just 2 quick questions, please.
Yes, we can do that. Mr. Rowe in the audience. There he is. I was looking the wrong direction. Sorry about that. I should have known you'd be on the left.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I did switch sides.
Please identify yourself for the record, and Representative Bierman will have a question for you.
Mr. Chair, thank you. My name is Evan Rowe, Deputy Commissioner at the Department of Employment and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Rowe, I just heard early on some concerns about the system not being ready for a 2026 launch, and I wondered if you could confirm in your own words whether the system will be ready in 2026, please.
Mr. Rowe.
Mr. Chair, Representative, yes, we are very confident that we will be ready for a full launch on January 1, 2026. I think as we testified in House Workforce previously, we've already deployed components of the program, including employer wage detail, a variety of tools for employers on the website, and I think the work is well underway.
Representative Bierman.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And also, Mr. Rowe, I heard that some states, apparently they can collect UI and also paid family medical leave, and I just wanted to confirm that in Minnesota we have taken care of that, and if you could explain in some detail, that would be helpful.
Mr. Rowe.
Mr. Chair, Representative, yes. So I think the paid leave law is very clear that you may not, both collect unemployment insurance benefits and paid leave benefits at the same time. One of the benefits of, kind of having both programs report into the same department, the Department of Employment and Economic Development, is that we're able to kind of ensure that, there's very tight managerial control, and we're also building in a variety of business process controls and, really automatic systems controls to ensure that an individual who is applying, cannot receive both sets of benefits. It's obviously a very critical part of program integrity and system design as we are implementing.
Mr. Chair, just wanted to
Very
thank the
quickly,
testifier.
Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe, for coming back up and clarifying on those 2 points. I'm not on the Labor Committee, so I just wanted to confirm that before we moved forward. And then, Mr. Chair, just a final comment. There's a lot said about the paid family medical leave, and a lot of conversation or talk about businesses that don't support it. I'm a business owner, and I support this paid family medical leave full on. I have had many occasions where I'm trying to hire somebody and younger people come in and they ask specifically about the offering of such a program and plan. And this is a plan that is economical for businesses. This is a plan that helps you employ and hire young workers who we can keep local in a smaller community. And it's really a healthcare bill, in my opinion. In my estimation, this is about healthcare, the well-being of my employees, the well-being of their families, the well-being of women raising children and taking care of loved ones, whether you're a husband or wife when they're sick, and especially taking care of elders. I mean, I've seen all of this in my business over the years, where employees come to me, they have issues like this. And this program, I've been a fan since it first came out, and when I run the numbers for my business, it makes so much sense. I would rather not delay. And I just want to put that on the record. And appreciate Rep. Baker. We've worked together a lot, and I really have a highest regard for you and your work, but unfortunately, this is one bill that we're not going to agree on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just go back to some of the comments that were made before we recessed. And I appreciate, Representative Baker, you bringing this bill. I think, it was stated that a lot of businesses support this and that there will be consequences for the delay. And I understand those concerns, but the reality is that most employers in the state, including most cities, including those that do collective bargaining, including school districts, including counties, they provide leave already. It's a very small subset of mostly small businesses that aren't being able to provide leave. So people who currently have paid leave that they don't pay a tax on are going to be able to continue to get that leave while we have this delay and we get the program right for the small businesses that don't offer leave. And so to say that all of a sudden nobody's going to get paid leave is just not true, because a lot of segments of the economy, they already have a lot of paid leave. And for the people that need to get it right, it is the small businesses. Representative Baker talked about the small businesses that in other states have an exemption. We are not providing an exemption here. At the federal level, they get an exemption. And then we also have so many people that we tried to offer a voluntary plan. So for small businesses that can't afford leave right now, maybe like Rep. Bierman's business or other small businesses, they'd like to provide it and they can't. We offered an alternative that was voluntary that would have made that possible and made it affordable without making everybody else who currently gets leave pay a tax on it. So members, there are a lot of concerns with this bill and a lot of concerns about how it's going to be implemented and how small businesses are going to be able to hire staff. The concern was that, people want to be able to have the leave. There will be small businesses that close because they just cannot afford to implement this by paying the tax and hiring the replacement workers and keeping the job open. They really can't find labor right now. And so I'm very concerned that this bill was problematic with multiple reasons we don't need to relitigate today, when it was passed, and to not take the time to delay the implementation so that we can do a better job, particularly for our small businesses, is very concerning to me. And so I really appreciate, Representative Baker, that you're willing to take a look at this, and I urge the members to understand that this is really important, that as we roll this out, we do it right. We don't want to have another MNLARS. We don't want to have another Office of Cannabis Management situation, which has rolled out terribly. So there's many examples where we have not gotten it right because we rushed, and this will really hurt our small businesses. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Robbins. Representative Agbaje.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have potentially a couple questions, but at least one question for the bill author. Representative Baker, I haven't really heard yet through this discussion what exactly is going to happen through this pause and exactly how long this pause is.
Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative. I think what the pause gives a lot of us time for is more listening to the people that have a lot of concern that maybe have mentioned earlier. I think our school districts have a lot of concern about what this will do to their costs and their staffing, because the cost is going to be $78 million coming to the schools, and they don't know how to pay for this yet. A lot of the counties and the collective bargaining agreements that are out there, many of them have quietly told me, we'd like to have a choice to be able to have this negotiated with or not. In the past, a lot of the bargaining agreements have had very robust PTO banks, and a lot of county workers can actually really bank it up heavily for this exact purpose, for family time off. I think that they were not vetted properly. I think that our local taxpayers are already paying those types of things. Again, I think it's just a matter of making sure we have time to get this bill better. Again, I'm not going to talk about repealing this idea. I think it is at the door now. We have to really get it right. But a one-size-fits-all for all sizes of business and the different complexities of businesses in Minnesota, we just need to make sure that when this leaves our legislation, it has to have balance. It has to have ideas for both sides. And right now, the bill as it was written last session doesn't have that.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Agbaje.
Thank you, Representative Baker. I'm not sure I actually heard an answer to my question of how long this pause would be and exactly what it is you want to do outside of the listening. My understanding is that the listening has actually already been happening with a number of groups and organizations working with yourself, Representative Pinto, Representative Frazier, on the questions and concerns that they have. My understanding as well is that those questions and concerns are being taken into consideration, and I understand that there might actually be other bills coming forward that actually critically address those needs. And so my probably last question for you is, you talked earlier about how you want to have a bill that would actually address those substantive concerns that both employees and employers are bringing up. And so I'm wondering today why we don't have a bill like that in front of us instead of one that's actually just going to put this thing on pause for, again, since you didn't answer my first question, I don't know how long this pause is for. Mr. Chair.
Representative Baker.
Mr. Chair, the bill calls for 1-year pause. I think that the reason you haven't seen other bills coming is that we've been working on it in a bipartisan fashion with members, so you'll probably see something here coming in this coming week.
Mr. Chair, final
Follow-up,
comment.
Representative Agbaje.
Well, then I would just say my final comment is that I hope that actually we would be waiting for those bills to come forward, because I do actually believe that employees and employers do have serious concerns about the implementation of this bill, what it means for smaller businesses, what it means for employees who are considering the time off that they want to take to spend with their family members. And I do think that those need to be addressed. I do hear from my constituents who are asking those questions. And so I actually think it would be a better use of our time if we were going over one of those bipartisan bills that you talked about. And so I'm actually quite disappointed that instead we're looking at, you keep saying it's not a repeal, but I don't see any other replacement here. So I'm looking at it as a repeal. And with that, I would just encourage members to vote no on this bill.
Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the bill author or to nonpartisan staff, can you refresh my memory? Did the original bill go through Education Finance?
Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Chair and members, I don't have that information offhand. I can look into it now, though, while you continue to debate and get back to the committee.
Thank you. Representative Creasy.
Thank you. And if you could just get confirmation, I don't believe it did go through education finance, and therefore the schools were not able to actually plan for this and the staffing. Representative Baker, have you heard from school leaders specifically about how this will contribute to the near and long-term fiscal stability for the schools?
Representative Baker.
Mr. Chair, I've heard from districts all over the state of Minnesota that do not know how this will work in implementing when their budgets right now are very, very concerning. So yes, I've heard from districts all over the state of Minnesota.
And one more.
Representative Creasy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the bill author, have you heard from any school leader that would suggest this would solve their hiring problem?
Representative Baker.
Mr. Chair, I have not.
No further questions.
Thank you. We are winding down the list. I have just two members left on the list. Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess just consistent with that line of questioning, thank you so much, Representative Creasy. So at this time, I'll move to re-refer the bill to the Education Finance Committee, and I think that was an excellent point. And so thank you so much, and would request a roll call, Mr. Chair. And I think the point was probably already made, no need to make anything further.
The motion is to re-refer the bill to the Education Finance Committee, and a roll call has been requested. We will vote on that
Mr.
motion. Representative Creasy.
Are you already calling the vote, or are you going to have discussion to that motion?
We can have discussion. Representative Creasy.
Just very quickly, as the chair of the Education Finance, I do not think this bill does need to go there at this point.
Thank you. We will proceed with the roll call on the motion unless Representative Pinto would care to withdraw his request.
No, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, if I may, I'll let Chair Creasy work it out with Chair Creasy, since they seem to be disagreeing, but I think we want to go forward with the motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll call the roll on the question of whether or not to re-refer this bill. Okay. Call the roll.
Chair Torkelson.
Chair votes no.
Vice Chair Robbins.
No.
Representative Acom.
Acom votes aye.
Representative Agbadje.
Yes.
Representative Baker.
No.
Representative Bierman.
Chairman, yes.
Representative Gomez.
Aye.
Representative Heintzman.
No.
Representative Igo.
No.
Representative Cleavorn. Representative Cagle.
Yes.
Representative Katiza Watun.
Aye.
Representative Koznick.
No.
Representative Creasy.
No.
Representative Lilly.
Aye.
Representative Moeller.
Aye.
Representative Nash.
Nope.
Representative Noor.
Aye.
Representative Novotny.
No.
Representative Pinto.
Aye.
Representative Rarick.
No.
Representative Schumacher.
No.
Representative Scott.
No.
Representative Swedzinski.
Kozinski, no.
Representative Vang.
Aye.
Representative West.
No.
Representative Uwakim.
Aye.
Representative Cleavorn.
There being 12 ayes and 14 nays, the motion does not pass. Representative Pinto, was that your only question?
It was not, Mr. Chair.
Well, I was just trying to be optimistic.
Fair enough. I'll try to keep things moving, Mr. Chair. A
Representative
question.
Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question to Chair Baker. I've heard concerns expressed both in our committee and also here about the process, and I think allegations of rushing process relating to the passage of paid family medical leave. I wonder if you know, Mr. Chair, Chair Baker, talking just about the times that paid leave has passed the House floor, which was in 2019, 2021, 2023, not including the bill that made changes in 2024. Do you happen to have any sense as to the number of committees that heard paid family and medical leave before it finally became law in the Minnesota? And this is just the House, by the way, not the Senate, because we're just going to worry about the House.
Representative Baker.
You know, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Pinto. I think that it's passed a lot of committees in the past, but which version are we talking about? They were looking at different versions of how to cost out the bill. There was a micro simulation process that was going through in 22, 23. They changed that all of a sudden and went to an actuarial study. So it depends on the version of the bill that we want to hear. During my time on workforce, the last 4 years, the number of questions that were asked to the Department of Economic Development that were not answered is alarming to me. The fiscal notes that I had requested over the last couple of years that went unanswered is concerning to me. So what I need to do in my work here, Representative Pinto, is to make sure that all of those things are really best understood so we have a better way of moving this thing forward. That's what this pause is doing, Representative Pinto.
A follow-up, Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Chair Baker, I think that's exactly the point, right? That legislation takes a while to work through. I mean, this is a really important program. It went through a number of iterations. You say it. As those committees went on, different changes happened. I will note the answer was 25 different hearings for the passage of the bill. Did not include education and finance, as far as I can tell, just to answer that question from Chair Kresha, but many, many other committee stops. And I guess I'd heard you say and other members talk about, if something is not right, we want to take the time to get it right and not rush things. And I've heard a lot of concerns about that concept, and then a lot of points about this particular bill, right, that there's aspects of it. I'd asked you in committee, following up on Representative Bage's kind of anticipating at her questions about kind of what's the plan for these 365 days. And so my question for you is, and this is kind of paraphrasing some of your colleagues, why the rush on this bill? So 25 committee hearings on the passage of the bill, plus another 3 in 2024, one hearing. We didn't have a fiscal note. I'll get into that a little more in just a second. But Mr. Chair, your committee voted this bill out with no fiscal note and with really no background laid. What is the rush here? Why can we not, just as you say, pause to allow legislation to do its work? And just one more thing, as I say this, you talked during committee. You said at one point, we might find out that actually maybe the program is ready to go in 26. We're not sure. We're going to have discussions. It's an ongoing process. Yes, it is. So why would we possibly vote this out today?
Representative Baker.
Mr. Chair and Representative Pinto, I think the part of the issue and the urgency of this now is we got a 24-day late start this year. We're behind the 8 ball already. We've got deadlines coming up here at the end of this month in early April to start working. This is our last chance. Legislators bipartisanly can work together on a bill that will be executed in 2026. And this is my attempt to slow it down, pause it up, because if we don't do this now and start working on some other options to maybe make it work better, we are going to run out of time. And as soon as we're adjourned, this is going to be launched in 2026. And right now in its current state, I don't believe it's ready to go. So that's the urgency today, that's why we're doing this today, Representative Pinto.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair Baker, I feel like I've heard you say a number of times, both in our committee and in this committee as well, that you've got ideas coming, there are things happening. You said you're talking bipartisan and various bills. So clearly, by your own conduct, you're indicating that it is not too late. You're in fact indicating that there's an ongoing process. As this bill passes out of this committee, it is in fact too late unless we send it back for consideration. Chair Baker, after we heard, so in all those 25 committee hearings, as far as I can tell, not once on this bill, I think it's true for almost every other bill, did a finance committee have a bill get voted out to Ways and Means without a fiscal note. And this is a hefty fiscal note. It turns out in this 49 pages, the biennial total is nearly the quadrennial total is nearly $29 million. This at a time when we don't have a supplemental forecast yet, right? No budget targets, of course. We've got the chaos and everything coming down from Washington, D.C. As I said to you on another bill, it would not be responsible, I think, for any of our committees to be sending spending through without knowing what the current fiscal picture is, but especially, and in Ways and Means, we got a fiscal note with $29 million of spending. And then the excuse for it is that, oh, we want to make sure we don't rush. We rush as we explain that we don't want to be rushing. I want to make sure the members are aware that when this bill passed through, we had not heard anything from the agency that was going to be implementing the paid leave program. No groundwork was laid. When they finally did come in, they walked through, and Representative Bierman had brought this up. They explained implementation is going very well. It's on track. They shared the outreach they've done to businesses, statewide outreach over a number of months and quite a while. And we heard from individual Minnesotans with, I have to say, the most heartrending, just incredible testimony talking about the impact of this program that it can have for them and how much they are they've been waiting years and years. Again, this is passed off the House floor repeatedly. And against that, Mr. Chair, I heard no and have still heard no specific proposals, no indication of how this 365 days would be used. People are making plans based on this. And so, again, I want to ask, do you have some plan, do you have something that would respond to the Minnesotans expressing this, where you could say, well, I know that you've got the new baby, you've got that sick spouse or sick family member, I know how desperate you are, and we're just going to have to wait, this is why, but this is exactly how we're going to use the time so you can have the reassurance that this is exactly how it's going to work. Because I've heard nothing specific. Can you give something concrete that would say that on this day, March 3rd, we've got to rush this out right now to absolutely have that be going? Is there anything concrete you can say to those Minnesotans?
Representative Baker.
I think, Mr. Chair and Representative Pinto, what I've asked for is a pause so we can get this right, whether it's March 3rd, March 10th. That doesn't matter. I think this bill is so massive, and it has to be addressed to the right size business. I've mentioned earlier the collective bargaining agreements that are already in place with some of these benefits already in place. They should be asked if they want to participate. There are a lot of versions of some ideas coming. Again, we're still working on that in a bipartisan fashion. So stay tuned. And again, this is just giving us a chance to pause and work on this. Our days are numbered here this session. So I want to get this done because as far as I see, January 1st is going to come very, very quickly if we don't just take a pause.
You're nearly done, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Sure. May I go, though?
One more, Representative Pinto.
Okay. Well, I guess, Chair Baker, so I think at this point, Mr. Chair and Chair Torkelson, so what I want to point out again to members is, when we passed this out of our committee, we had no idea of the cost. We now do, and it's significant. We had no specifics from DEED regarding implementation. Since then, we have gotten that information. This is completely inappropriate for this to have passed out of the hands of the committee with jurisdiction. That shouldn't be happening to any of our committee's members. And so this time, Mr. Chair, I would move that the bill be re-referred to the Committee on Workforce, Labor, and Economic Development, and I would request a roll call. This is the committee that should be hearing the bill.
Thank you, Representative Pinto. Representative Pinto requests another roll call on another re-referral motion. The clerk, Representative Swazinski, to the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Torkelson, explain the motion a little bit again, and then I have a follow-up question.
The motion is to re-refer this bill to the Workforce Committee.
Sounds good. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I think one of the questions that we do have is that as this bill moves forward, and I appreciate Representative Baker's work on it, but I'll save my questions for after committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Swazinski. To the motion, the clerk will call the roll.
Chair Torkelson.
Torkelson votes no.
Vice Chair Robbins.
No.
Representative Acom.
Aye.
Representative Agbadje.
Aye.
Representative Baker.
No.
Representative Bierman.
Aye.
Representative Gomez. Aye. Representative Heintzman.
No.
Representative Igo.
No.
Representative Cleavorn. Representative Cagle.
Yes.
Representative Cagle, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Thank you. Representative Katiza Watun.
Aye.
Representative Koznick.
No.
Representative Kresha.
No.
Representative Lilly.
Aye.
Representative Moeller.
Aye.
Representative Nash.
No.
Representative Noor. Representative Novotny.
No.
Representative Pinto.
Aye.
Representative Rarick.
No.
Representative Schumacher.
No.
Representative Scott.
No.
Representative Swedzinski.
No.
Representative Vang.
Aye.
Representative West.
No.
Representative Joachim.
Yes.
Representative Cleavorn.
There being 12 ayes and 14 nays, the motion fails. To wrap things up, Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, I think Representative Baker was on the right track a while ago when he said that it's time for a pause and take a deep breath. I just think we disagree about what needs to be paused. You know, I think this bill needs a pause. There's clearly a lot going on here that hasn't been fully explored. You know, you look at this 50-page fiscal note and you find a lot of things that I imagine that Representative Pinto and the other members of that committee would like to explore. It's unfortunate that amendment or that motion did not prevail. And I would just highlight one of many here of things that I noticed when I read the fiscal note, and I had an opportunity to talk to Commissioner Rowe about this offline. But on page 6 of the fiscal note, it says that there's a cost of $9.2 million in fiscal 27 and $10.5 million in fiscal 28 for development costs as a result of this bill. And I asked the commissioner about that, and he said that essentially they have to keep the contractor online for an extra year because of the delay of this bill. So we're going to spend $20 million just to keep a vendor online just because we want to delay the bill a year for that reason. I don't get it. I mean, Representative Baker wants to delay the entire paid family medical leave program a year to get it right, but is apparently unwilling to delay this bill by 1 week to get it right. I don't understand the logic behind that. I don't think that that's appropriate. That isn't how we should work. What I heard Representative Baker say is that, well, deadlines are approaching. And I'm a little fuzzy on what deadlines we're talking about because we got an email on Friday that first and second deadline is April 2nd. And third deadline, and this is a finance bill, this spends money, is April 11th. So we have more than a month to those deadlines, which, you know, in legislative time is several eternities. I mean, I could say it's an eternity, but it's like probably 5 eternities between now and April 11th. I wonder if the deadline that we're actually thinking about here is March 11th and March 17th, which, if the public isn't aware, that's the day of the special election and probably the date that that member will be seated. Because once those dates arrive, this bill will be dead, and we all know that. If it was still in committee on those days, it wouldn't move any further. You know, I heard Representative Robbins talk about uncertainty, and I agree that uncertainty is not good for business. But I would tell you that it's your side that's creating the uncertainty here. Right now, it is very certain what is going to happen in Minnesota law on January 1, 2026, which is that millions of Minnesotans will have access to the paid family medical leave that they deserve. But by advancing this bill, you're sending a message of, well, actually, we don't know what's going to happen on January 1st. All this planning, you know, Representative Kresha talks about the school districts doing their planning. They're going to have to revisit their plans if they actually think that this bill might pass. These small businesses they're concerned about now, they're going to have to weigh, okay, should I be prepared for this to start next year or the following year? What's going to happen? And we have months, perhaps, of that level of uncertainty that is being caused by this bill, which I heard the bill author say, he acknowledged that it wasn't going to pass. And so I just want to make it clear to the public, this bill will not pass. There are not 68 votes for it in the Minnesota House. It will not pass, which makes it all the more a shame that we are kind of breaking our rules, rushing our norms for a bill that is not ever going to clear the House floor. The last thing I wanted to say, Mr. Chair, is, you know, when I reviewed this fiscal note, it does have, you know, a price tag on it. It's not in the scope of things that we look at. The biggest price tag in dollars and cents, it looks like about 20 billion, or million, excuse me, in the biennium and another 9 in the tails. But I think that this fiscal note really doesn't capture the true cost of this bill because it doesn't take into account the human costs of this bill. How many babies will be born in the 1 year that is delayed here? And how many parents are going to miss those critical first days and weeks with their kids because they couldn't afford to be there? How many sick parents, grandparents, are people going to miss their time with their loved ones in their final days over that year? How many people with conditions aren't going to be able to get the care that they need? Those costs are not reflected in this fiscal note because they are incalculable. And they, by the way, are permanent. We can make up for $28 million. We can't make up for a parent losing those first few weeks with their kid. This is a bad idea. And I encourage all of the members on this side to vote no.
Thank you, Representative Stevenson. Representative Baker, closing comments on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I do really appreciate this robust conversation. I think part of the bill, the reason there's a lot of concerns about the delay and what we're trying to get here is because literally the economics of this had not been explored for the last 2 to 4 years. You didn't take into account for the 50% of the job creators that have to have a job in order for this program to even work. Minnesota is becoming more uncompetitive, especially in our border cities. We are pushing people away, and just because you want to stand up a very good program that could work if it was balanced, this could work. We just need time to make sure that all the partners that are part of this are at the table. So again, if we don't take those risk takers, those people that have invested everything they have to make sure that they provide the benefits that their employees want and have asked for, they're the ones that should be able to make the decision, what are their benefits set and what does that look like to them? As an employer myself, I pay my employees top-notch their hourly rates. We do other benefits. We are flexible. We're part-time. We're full-time. We do whatever we can. But this kind of a benefit set for a small business is overwhelming for them, not only from a cost standpoint, but from the amount of time somebody can be away. And don't think for a second we don't allow people to be away for medical situations. We don't let them to be away for family bonding. We do that now. We find ways of getting it done. It's just not a one-size-fits-all. So again, members, I really appreciate this. We will be working hard on finding ways to work together on this. It's not going away. It is going to happen. But we have to make sure that we continue to work on that massive bill that's coming out to make sure that the people that take time off for these lengths of time have a job to come back to. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we, re-refer or move House File 11 back to the General Register, and I will ask for a roll call.
Thank you. Representative Baker requests a roll call. A roll call will be granted. Seeing no further discussion, Chair Baker has renewed his motion that House File 11 be placed on the General Register. All those in, the clerk will take the roll.
Chair Torkelson.
Torkelson votes aye.
Vice Chair Robbins.
Aye.
Representative Acom.
No.
Representative Egbadje.
No.
Representative Baker.
Aye.
Representative Bierman.
No.
Representative Gomez.
No.
Representative Heintzman.
Yes.
Representative Igo.
Yes.
Representative Cleavorn. Representative Cagle.
No.
Representative Katiza-Watun.
No.
Representative Koznick.
Aye.
Representative Kresha.
Aye.
Representative Lilly.
No.
Representative Moeller.
No.
Representative Nash.
Aye.
Representative Noor.
No.
Representative Novotny.
Aye.
Representative Pinto.
No.
Representative Rarick.
Aye.
Representative Schumacher.
Aye.
Representative Scott. Aye. Representative Swedzinski.
Yes.
Representative Vang.
No.
Representative West.
Aye.
Representative Joachim.
No.
Representative Cleaborn.
There being 14 ayes and 12 nays, the motion passes and the bill is on its way to the general register. Members, that concludes our meeting for today. This meeting is adjourned.